Season 5 of our Journeyman has come to a close. Second place, just that 1 point behind Trabzonspor. We came this close to winning the championship in the Sport Toto Super League. We're going to wrap up the season. We've got our end of season review, and we start planning for our first year of Champions League football. And welcome back to episode number 44 of Bottom to the Top. I'm Mr. Cellophane. I hope you have had a fantastic week so far. Time for our end of season review as we get ready to move forward into season number 6 of our FM24 Journeyman Save right here on YouTube. I hope you've had a good time so far, and this first week of 2024 has treated you well. Taking a look at how things turned out for us last year, our signing of the season, no shock, was 27-year-old goalkeeper Brian Meyer. He came in from Derry City for 450,000 euros, made 13 appearances with a 7.02 average rating. Honestly, he came in and saved our season. Moritz Nicholas was playing pretty well, but not as consistent as we needed him to be, especially with long-term injuries that saw him bow out right at the time we were trying to advance in the Europa Conference League in the knockout stages. Obviously, we failed at that. Hopefully, Meyer can take us into the future. We also brought in 29-year-old defensive midfielder Andrea Donzi. He cost 925,000 euros. We got him from Bodrum FK. He made 30 appearances for us, scored 3 goals with 2 assists. He was unavailable for most of the early going in Europe because we signed him during the late portion of the summer transfer window, which came after the European registration window had already closed. Personally, for me, the signing of the season, although unofficially, was Beknaz Almazbekov. We got him in the Galatasaray fire sale. The 22-year-old, 65,000 euros. He made a grand total of 25 appearances for the club, scored 5 goals with 5 assists. Another massive addition to our attacking midfield was Suleiman Zabishi. We got him on a free transfer from Trabzonspor, and as soon as we brought him in, he made his old team pay. 25 appearances for him, also 5 goals. 5 assists as he split time in that attacking midfield position. Nicholas Morgantini, the 33-year-old fullback, did a great job for us as our right back. Started 34 matches, played in 37 total, 7 assists. He cost us 215,000 euros. And his possible backup for the future, although not 100% sure on this, is 22-year-old Gianluca Jimenez. We again brought him in too late to register him for Europe in that first half of the year. 170,000 euros from Tristan Suarez, made a grand total of 16 appearances, added 2 assists with a 6.74 rating. Now, we did have him on a playing time pathway promise where if he got a 7.0 rating in matches, he would become a regular starter. He obviously failed to get that. Ultimately, he blamed us because we did not play him a lot at the very end of the season, but we also didn't play him a lot towards the end of the season because he wasn't close to that goal in the time that he did play. Also picked up a couple of injuries, which hampered his potential development. Most of our outgoings happened as free transfers, either because they were youngsters that we felt we had no need of anymore, or veteran players that their contract had expired and we just weren't going to be re-signing them. That was the case with Kenneth Ameriu, who went to Pardubice, only played 8 matches, registering 1 single assist. Also, Lamine Diak went to Eibar, ended up playing 37 matches for them. Only 7 of them starts with a goal and 2 assists. So I feel that those moves were justified for us. Iron Gomes had just fallen down our pecking order. He was a very versatile player, but we found better options as the season went along. So we sold him in January for 725,000 euros. Same with Alperin Babakan. He could play either as a center back or a right back. He wasn't really getting playing time with either position since we brought in Benedict Joseph to be our third, more utility center back. He ended up going out to Eibar for 900,000 euros, played 12 matches for them and registered 0 points. And Atakan Gunduz, we really just had no place for him. He was well down, like 6th or 7th on our depth chart. We managed to get 220,000 euros for him. The board is very, very happy with us and how we turned out for the year. They expected us to be a top half team. I don't think they expected us to be vying for a chance to win the title on the last match week of the season, and that is what we did. Unfortunately, Trabzonspor did win their match and managed to maintain that 1-point lead on us. So we finished in 2nd place, our best ever finish as a club. The previous best finish was 4th, which of course was last year here in the Journeyman save, which got us into Europe in the first place. 73 points in total, only an average of 6,711 fans, which is less than half of our capacity. We do need to do better next year. We need to start bringing a little bit more money in. That is one of the things that is kind of holding us back from really advancing and making Kasımpaşa what could be our forever club here in the save. We'll talk a little bit more about what we may be looking towards in the future with this series a little bit later on in this episode. Our top goal scorer was Boubacar Traore with 11 goals. It's just a shame that he missed the beginning part of the season. We started off in the Europa League. We ended up making it to... Well, we made it to the 3rd qualifying round. We lost on aggregate 4-0 to Dinamo Zagreb. We just could not find a solution for the Croatian club, especially losing 3-0 in our final match, which dropped us down into the UEFA Europa Conference League, where we were knocked out in the playoff round. We got into the league phase by beating Monoya Nicosia 5-0 on aggregate. We just absolutely demolished that team from Cyprus. And then we followed that up with a 4-1 win over Skandija before dropping a 4-3 wild decision against Mlada Boleslav. Then we somehow beat Lech, who we expected to lose to, a much superior Polish club on paper. We beat them at home 2-1. Before we lost our next 2 matches against Athletic Club Bilbao on the road in Spain, which we didn't really expect to win. We did think we were going to be able to beat FC Nordsjælland. However, we dropped a 2-0 decision at home before bouncing back with a 0-0 draw against Rijeka, which did get us into the knockout rounds. But then Croatia did us in again. Slaven Belopa just could not solve them. Our moments to remember, our biggest win was against Kayserispor. That came in April. It was a 6-2 victory, a pair of goals for Sakishi. Yusuf Insi also scored. Ali Khan with a pair of goals, and Dre Siddiqui scoring in the 81st minute emphatically before Douglas Tanke. Yeah, we were up 6-0. Douglas Tanke scored a pair of goals in the 85th minute on the penalty and in the 2nd minute of added time to bring them back to a more respectable score. A match to remember was a 3-1 victory in September against Fenerbahce, a match that we thought we were going to lose. Remember, last year, Fenerbahce, when we met them in match week 12, they had won their first 11 matches before they came up against us. And the goal of the season belonged to James Furlong in a 2-0 victory over Slaven Belupo. Yeah, we won the first leg of that tie 2-0. And that goal was an absolute screamer from 30 yards out. Laidler playing it through a pair of defensemen. Furlong, first touch, finds the top far corner. It was absolutely gorgeous. I think I called it a goal of the year candidate when it happened. And there it is. Financially, it was a pretty good year for us. We saw upticks across all categories. More money in sponsorship, broadcast revenue, corporate and hospitality, competition prize money. We almost tripled that. And matchday commercial and retail was also up by about 15,000 euros. We sold just under 81,000 euros in merchandise. 1,159 shirts were sold. Yusuf Insi led the way with Sakishi, Furlong, Ali Khan, and Suleiman following up. Now, Suleiman got most of his playing time when Sakishi was unavailable, so that may be one of the decisions that we have to make in this offseason as we prepare for our first Champions League competition. We did manage to pick up the Manager of the Year award. James Furlong was our fans' player of the season. The Young Player of the Year was Yusuf Insi. Brian Meyer, we already talked about the signing of the season, and the goal of the season belonged to James Furlong. Boubacar Traore scored 15 goals in all competitions to lead all of our goal scorers. Furlong added 15 assists, and he picked up the most Man of the Match awards with 6 and had the highest average rating of a 7.2. Benedict Joseph with the most passes completed per 90 minutes with 60. Overall, some new records: 15 goals from Boubacar Traore, 15 assists from Furlong, also the 6 Man of the Match awards. And for the competition, the favorite striker of the year, I think that's what that means, that was Boubacar Traore. We did manage to gain about 116,500 social media followers, which is good. Our family fans went up. Our hardcore fans did go down. I'm not sure why that happens. When you have a good year, your hardcore fans actually decrease. We had 691 season ticket holders. We do have a season ticket holder waiting list of 676, so maybe that number will get bumped up for next year. We really do need to bring in a bit more revenue. We need to get more butts in the seats if we are going to be a successful Champions League competing club. As far as our vision for the next year, they've actually shortened things up only to the amount of time that they know that we are going to be here, which is through the season after this one. They want us to be competitive in the Champions League, also competitive in the Europa League, which makes me think that they think we're not going to get very far in the Champions League competition. I guess that's okay. And they'd also like us to qualify for the Europa Conference League, which means we need to be a top 6 team? I think we can do it. We did it this year. We don't plan on making a ton of negative changes to the club, although we're not 100% sure what kind of changes we are going to be able to make. Now, the reason they only gave us objectives for the next year is apparently the ownership of the club is in a bit of flux. There may be a takeover underway. Once that is resolved, we'll have a better idea of what the true future of Kasımpaşa looks like. And with that, we had a end of the year team meeting and sent the squad on their way till they come back for the preseason festivities, all ready to challenge and make a good account for ourselves in the Champions League and the challenge for a Europa Conference League position from the league table next season. Now, we did get a notice that due to technological advances, our facilities aren't nearly as good as they used to be. Our training facilities have been affected, so we have asked the board to once again improve our training facilities. Well, we haven't asked them for that before, but we're hoping to bring them back up to snuff. Which does bring us to our club finances page and the discussion that I've been hinting about for a little while about the future of the save. Obviously, the Journeyman is going to continue. That is not what we are talking about. What we are going to discuss is the fact that we have, as a club, lost money over the last couple of seasons. Now, we have been able to stay well within all of the budgets set for us by the board. The problem is we just are not bringing in a lot of money. Now, that may change with a run in the Champions League. Hopefully, we can get at least past the second qualifying round, which is where we enter the competition, because the Champions League really is where the money is. Same with Europa League and, to a lesser extent, the Europa Conference League. And that's where most of our money came from last season. We only have $2.6 million in the budget. We made a loss, as I mentioned, in the last 2 years. Our transfer budget heading into our first Champions League season is $1.2 million. Now, that's not a lot of money, even for a smaller club in Turkey, to make necessary improvements to be able to be competitive on the Champions League stage, on the European stage. And as we saw throughout the episodes in Europe last year, when we competed outside of Turkey, we did not do as well as we would have liked to. In fact, we basically blitzed through the league for the most part. I think we lost 4 times, maybe 5, all season long in 38 matches, but we lost the majority of our games in Europe. So we need to be more competitive. That's going to be hard without an infusion of cash. Now, maybe we'll get lucky and we'll get a tycoon takeover when the management situation in Kasımpaşa has been resolved. But we can't rely on that. So the plan is that we are going to remain in Turkey for as long as they will have us. I'm having a good time with Kasımpaşa. I enjoy the team that we have built thus far, and I'm looking forward to the journey of potentially doing better than that second place finish, of winning the league, of making a run into Europe, and maybe even challenging this year, next year, the year after for the Champions League. That being said, if a club from a bigger league, from a better financial situation, from somewhere else in the Champions League realm, even the Europa League realm, comes knocking on our door, we're going to listen. So while we are not actively going to seek a new job outside of Kasımpaşa, if one is presented to us, we're going to have to give it some massive, massive consideration and thought, because we may have taken Kasımpaşa as high as they can possibly go. I don't want that to be the case. I'd love to see us challenge for Europe with this team in this town. But the reality of the situation, the financial reality, is that probably ain't going to happen, and we're probably going to have to go somewhere else. We are on a journey after all. Will that journey continue elsewhere? That's not going to be up to us. Luckily for us, however, there is value in our squad. Now, our top 3 players, I've sorted this screen by their transfer value, most likely are not going to go anywhere. Ariel Amenda, just 24 years old. Yes, he is a Swiss national. He's not Turkish, so he counts against our foreigner total. He is the backbone of our defense. He has been our stalwart on the back line, making 44 appearances. Added 3 goals. I wish he had had a few more. He is a big dude. We expected him to score a couple of more times than he actually did on set pieces, but that does not mean he has been a disappointment in the least bit. Yusuf Insi is one of our most popular players at 23 years old. He's Turkish. He had 5 goals and 11 assists in 42 appearances, only 23 years of age. And Mustafa Demirci at 19 is very much far and our way our second choice striker at the moment. Made 29 appearances with 9 goals, no assists, but as a lone striker up top, that's not unexpected. 9 goals, though, in limited time, playing only about, 50% of the time. Now, as we get behind him, we run into players that maybe we could consider parting ways with, particularly Eren Öztürk. Now, we brought him in towards the end of our first season here in Kasımpaşa, if I remember correctly. Actually, we brought him in the season before last, paid only 89,000 euros for him. He's only made 2 appearances for the senior club, and he is worth between 5 and 7 million. So either he's a player that we should be playing more because he is much better than we have given him credit for, or he is going to be the one who finances everything else. Umut Khan is a player that I like as a backup left back to James Furlong, who again is pretty much on the untouchable list, although he does make a ton of money. We had to give him a raise based on the number of matches he played as an international player. He met that, so he got bumped up to 10,500 euros per week. So he is currently our highest paid player. Umut Khan at 19 is Turkish. He is very good. He made 9 starts for us, 17 appearances off the bench, added a goal, was player of the match twice, but he also did make a couple of mistakes that I don't know if we're going to be able to drum that out of him. Adam Dojan was a massive, massive surprise for us. We brought him on knowing that he had experience, that he was pretty good as a center back, but he managed to score 5 goals, add a couple of assists. 26 years old, again a Turkish player with a 7.0 rating, only making 5,750 euros per week. I say only, but that's about half of what Furlong is making, and Adam Dojan can also play on the left wing side if he needs to. Ali Khan has maybe maximized his potential. He's a Turkish player. He's 28 years old. 3-star current ability, 3-star potential. Again, making about 5,700 euros a week, but he had a rating north of 7 with 10 goals and 7 assists in 40 total appearances with the club. That was pretty darn good. We'll have to keep an eye on him for the coming year to see if there is any drop-off in play as he gets a little bit older. Or do we cash in on our starting midfielder, our starting playmaker for $2 to $4.5 million? That's a tough one. Dre Siddiqui, 31 years old, another player that we could be potentially moving on. Very solid, 4 goals, 5 assists, and 31 total appearances. $9,000 though he's making each and every week, so he is a candidate to move on. We can probably get a couple of million for him. Suleiman we just picked up. He's 25 years old and he's Turkish. That's really all I need to say. 5 goals, 5 assists. We already talked about him. Morris Nicholas is probably going to be at the front of the line of players to go. He is not Turkish. He is 30 years old. He's making $8,000 a week, and he was inconsistent. If you remember from previous episodes where we've talked about registration in the Sport Toto Super League, we need to have at least 2 domestic goalkeepers registered. We can only register a maximum of 3 goalkeepers. Nicholas is going to be the odd man out. Hopefully, we can get something for him. Boubacar Traore, I don't want him to go anywhere. He's our leading goal scorer. There's a reason why. He's a big man in the middle. He commands that 6-yard box. He's staying. Samed Hopash, 19 years old, Turkish, still has plenty of upside. Had a pretty good season this year with 5 goals and 2 assists. Only made 8 starts, 26 appearances off the bench. He was our primary backup for Ali Khan, either he wasn't starting or if he got tired, ran into foul trouble later in matches. Probably going to keep him around. He's young and he's pretty cheap. Endri Sakishi, though, is not. He's Albanian. He's 31, so he's a foreigner, and he's getting older. Only 3 stars of ability, no potential left. He's making over $9,000 a week. And we have, as we have proven in Suleiman and in Beknaz Amazbekov, we have the future attacking midfielders already on this roster. Issa Yilmaz is an interesting one. He's a defender, 20 years old, Turkish. Looks like he's got a ton of upside. Hasn't really shown that to us on the pitch. To be fair, we haven't really given him the chance to show us. Only made 4 appearances for us in the year on a 6.62 rating. He's got some value to him. We may just want to cash in on that this year. Andrea Donzi, we brought him in. He was solid. He's 29, but he's still a good player back there. Much cheaper than Drace Siddiqui, so if we have to choose between the two, we're probably going to keep Donzi. Kampalat Shalik is a bit of an enigma. He's played pretty well when we've played him. He just can't seem to get in there very much. He is versatile. He's Turkish. He's 20 years old. He only makes $1,600 a week. He's very good to keep around. Did add 4 goals and 1 assist in just 16 total appearances, 5 starts, 11 off the bench. Evan Laidler, I'm kind of up in the air about. He is a defensive midfielder. He can slot in the more playmaking role as well, although that really doesn't suit him as well. The 23-year-old American, though, he looks pretty good on paper. He just didn't really give us what we needed on the pitch. Rating-wise, a 6.67. He did make 29 appearances for us, just the lone goal and a lone assist. Meyer, we talked about. He is our starting goalkeeper. He ain't going anywhere. Mateus Henrique, though, we had trouble keeping him happy during the year. 25 years old. He is also obviously not a Turkish national. He was decent. 1 goal, 2 assists, but I think we can probably do better, specifically since we were playing him mostly as our right wing back or our right back, and we already have a couple of those, assuming we keep everyone happy in the position. Nick Morgantini, speak of the devil. He is currently our starting right back. He probably will be for the next year. Even at 33 years old, he still has some zip to him. He still is a very useful player. He made 34 starts for us, picked up 7 assists. I don't see that changing, although we will probably give more playing time to Gianluca Jimenez, the 22-year-old, if we are able to keep him around. Both of them really don't make a ton of money. Now, Göktuğ Beytekin is going to be the beneficiary of the fact that he is Turkish. He is our backup goalkeeper. He was our backup goalkeeper, even though he moved down the pecking order a little bit when we brought in Meyer and dropped Nicholas into the number 2 position. But, yeah, 23, Turkish, goalkeeper. We're keeping him. I haven't forgotten about Benedict Joseph, the 20-year-old center back from Antigua and Barbuda. He is an international player, which makes him our leading candidate to remain our 3rd choice center back. Now, he's probably going to want more playing time as he begins to grow into his position. He played pretty well for us. He didn't register any goal contributions, made 21 total appearances. We did go through a period where we had to promise him more playing time, which we ultimately gave him. He is very solid, but Adem Dojan and Auriel Amenda are just ahead of him. That is a fact of life here. So now all we can do is progress forward, hit the transfer window, see what happens. Slightly disappointed that the board has rejected our request to improve our training facilities after the recent downgrade. Can't say I'm surprised. This could be as a result of the potential imminent board takeover, or it could just be a result of the amount of complacency that we have seen from our board and a somewhat disturbing lack of ambition. We requested an increase of our percentage of transfer revenue, currently getting 70%. They've rejected that. We increased the transfer budget, or at least we asked for it. They rejected that. We asked them to increase our junior coaching budget, and once again, we did not get what we wanted. So yeah, we're the man for the job. We are the guy they want us leading them into the future. They just don't want to give us anything to actually do it. I am sad to say that one of our outgoings this year could very well potentially be James Furlong. We were reminded that he has a release clause as part of his contract of only 3.9 million euros to a team in Europe, which is a bargain basement price for someone of his skill as an Irish international. In order to get rid of that, or at least raise that, we're going to have to give him a new contract, of which he wants no less than 22,500 euros per week, which is roughly about 20% of our wage budget. We may not be able to afford to keep James Furlong at left back for long. No pun intended. And I honestly never thought, while we were having the whole conversation about what we were going to do next, that we would actually get an opportunity so very soon. FC Nantes of Ligue 1 have offered us a chance to interview for their vacant management position. And this could be a potentially massive step up for us. Now, Nantes has been a Ligue 1 superpower in the past. They've won the league 8 times, 4 Coupe de France's, a couple of Trophées des Champions, but they've fallen on slightly harder times. Looking at their time in Ligue 1 recently, finishing in the bottom half of the league. They're looking for us to develop players using their youth system, which I have no problem doing because they actually have a decent academy system. In fact, they have excellent academy coaching and a good youth system setup, which is something that we do not currently have at Kasımpaşa. They also have a remarkable reputation, secure finances, and a wage bill that is 5 times larger than what we are expecting this year at Kasımpaşa. They finished 14th last year, so definitely room to grow. Let's take on the interview, shall we? Welcome, Nick. We're very excited to speak to you. We'd like to discuss our plans for the club's vision and get your views on them. We're meeting with Romain Tisserand. What a fantastic French name. Yellow Kits? Gonna miss the blue. Potentially. We haven't gotten the job just yet. Am I worried about not knowing how to speak the language? I mean, we came into this Journeyman only speaking Greek. We've spent time in Belgium, learned that language. We've learned Turkish, at least to a certain extent. I think we're not going to have any problem. I get on well with other languages and can learn very quickly. I have some reservations regarding the fact that you've never managed in this country. Can you explain why that shouldn't be an issue? I think the fact that we have experience in various other countries should make up for the fact that we have never managed in France. Why have you only worked with a small selection of teams so far in your career? We've only been managing for 5 years. And we've been very loyal to the teams that we've been with. So I think that's going to be the answer that we give, how we have shown loyalty to every club we managed and consider that to be a good thing. Why do I want to leave my current job after doing so much good work there? Well, first off, you asked me. Second off, I think it's time to take the next step, and we hope that that can be here. I've previously been embroiled in media controversy citing my inability to command the support of my players. What can I say to address their concerns about that happening in France? Well, frankly, that only happened when we first made our way to Turkey. It wasn't really our fault. We started off with the team against us, like massively against us. You remember our management support at the very beginning of Turkey was abysmal. It is fantastic right now. So I'm actually willing to make that promise that it's something that we have learned from and can promise that the atmosphere in Nantes will remain healthy were I to be given the job. We've done a massive amount of work in managing the personalities and the locker room atmosphere at every club that we have been at. I don't see that being a problem here. We understand the importance of having the right backroom team in place when the manager moves to a new club, so we're willing to allow you to request any changes you'd like to make to our current backroom team, as well as the opportunity to request any staff members you might want to bring with you from your current club. What sort of budget will I be looking for to make these changes? We always ask for a small budget because we can expect there to be changes to be made. Now, are we going to bring anybody from our club in Turkey? I don't know yet. We haven't taken a look yet at the backroom staff at Nantes. If we are given a chance to move into the job, we'll obviously get that opportunity to make those evaluations. So we're going to ask for just a small budget to make any necessary additions and or subtractions from the current setup here at Nantes. Looking at their vision of the future, of course, they want us to work within the wage budget, give a maximum of 1-year contracts to players over the age of 34, 3-year deals to first-team players, but only 2 years for players over 32, maximum of 3 years if they are 30 or more. They would like us to record a top-half finish in Ligue 1, develop Ligue 1's best youth system that's preferred, not required, but that could be a challenge I think we may be up for. Also work towards developing the best youth system in the country. Wouldn't that be the same thing? For the following year, they want us to continue to develop the best youth system in the country. Seems to be a recurring theme here at Nantes. And maintain a Ligue 1 top half finish for the rest of our time here. We will agree to that vision because we're in an interview, and why wouldn't we? Not in any position, they say, to set any expectations to meet for the current season, which has not yet begun. Expectations and budgets will be laid out in the run-up to the next season if I am appointed. I guess, well, technically, since the league season has not yet turned over, they're still seeing it as the end of the 27-28 season, and we'll talk about 28-29 when the time is right. I'm okay with that. Do we have any requests for us to consider in order to help move the club forward? Now, normally we would ask for a coaching badge. We are just shy of our Continental Pro license, so it's the last one to get. I think it would be premature to ask for it now. I don't think it's going to be necessary for us to have in place and set before we join the team. I think it's something we can always ask for. So right now, no thanks. We're good. It is very empowering to know that the work that we've done so far at Kasımpaşa has been recognized and the chance to move on, even though we don't really want to move on. We are fine staying in Turkey. But to get an opportunity like this, to move to a bigger club, to a big 5 league, well, that's something we really just cannot pass up, is it? We have been getting updates on James Furlong's progress as he plays for Team Ireland in the UEFA European Football Championship. And it reminded me that we are potentially looking at Kasımpaşa to re-sign him to a new deal to get rid of or at least massively raise that minimum fee release clause. Now with the possibility of moving to France, not sure I want to do that just yet because James Furlong could be a very nice addition to a Nantes squad who has Luca Dean at 34 years old as a starting left back. Furlong could be a nice replacement for him. That would probably not cost nearly as much as well, and we could add to whatever kitty we would need in the transfer budget with Nantes should we get the job. Of course, now that I've done a full analysis on what I might do with James Furlong, if we were to move to France, we're probably not going to get the gig. And while we await our fate to see if we're going to move from Turkey to France, we are 1 week away from the announcement of our fixtures for the new season. So we're about to tick over into season number 4 at Kasımpaşa, and Pendikspor is coming back from a very brief stint in the second tier. But Balaspor and Kurum FK, I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly, probably not, are going to be making their first appearances in the Sport Toto Super League. We've also had to promise James Furlong that we are going to talk to him very soon about getting a new contract. Originally, the plan for that was to just put him off until we saw what happened with France, but we did not get the job at FC Nantes. The board were satisfied with the plans that we put forward in the interview, but ultimately decided that we weren't the right fit to take the club forward. Instead, they've decided to hire Leonardo Jardim, that's Jose Leonardo Nunes Alves Sousa Jardim, 53-year-old coach just like us. 119 games managed. He's only won 34 of them, lost 54, so really? I guess that means we keep moving on in Turkey. So as promised, we're offering a new deal to James Furlong. He wants to be a star player, because of course he does, and he's asking for 28,000 euros a week. The max we can offer is 16.5, so let's kick in a loyalty bonus maybe of 500 grand, but that's going to take up 500,000 of our transfer budget, so maybe we don't do that. Let's go 250 and see what happens. Once a 4-year deal, paying 59,000 to the agent with an 11.5 million euro minimum fee release clause to foreign clubs. He's fine with the loyalty bonus, but he still wants 28 grand. I can't. I can't. I'm sorry. Now he's going to be mad because we didn't fulfill our promise. Even though we did. Our promise was to offer him a new deal, which we did. His choice not to accept what was offered to him. And now, of course, he's unhappy the promise wasn't kept. I still had 2 more days. He wants to talk to me about what I plan to do about it. Are you joking me? I remind you that you were promised a new contract. We haven't agreed to terms yet. We promised contract talks, not the deal you were demanding. It's your choice whether to accept the club's offer or not. The matter is closed from my point of view. He may be downcast, but you know what? He's still a member of this team for the next year. Actually, 2 years. So, suck it up, Buttercup. Further proof that no man on the squad is irreplaceable. If we have to move on from James Furlong, we will. We do have Umit Khan, who is about a week or so away from becoming homegrown at club, so he'll tick a box for our European roster situation. We've got to start Umit Khan. We'll start Umit Khan. You know what's the sign of a bad boss? One that only likes an idea when they pretend to be the one to come up with it. A couple of weeks ago, we went to the board and said, hey, we need better training facilities, and they said no. Now, that was probably because of the potential board takeover, which apparently is now on the rocks and not happening. So now they've come to us and they've requested a meeting to discuss some club improvements, including improving the training facilities. Yes, I think that's a good idea. If only I had thought of that first. Meanwhile, Adam Dojan has committed his future to the club. He's going to be making 11 grand a week starting next year. A new 4-year deal for the 26-year-old Turkish center back, which is very important. I know I stress that a lot, but we can only have 14 foreign players on the club, and only 8 of them can be on the pitch at the same time. So as many Turks as we can have at our disposal, the better we are going to be. He does want to be an important player. He does have a minimum fee release clause for clubs in a continental competition of 6.5 million. Basically, that means if someone's going to give us 6.5 million for him, he can go because we can replace him for 6.5 million. He does get a 47,000 euro bonus if we do qualify for the Champions League moving forward. Before we get started in the league, however, we will open up our European play, the Champions League third qualifying round. We are in the league path because we were in a champion. Third qualifying round is just 6 weeks away. We don't know who our opponent is going to be just yet, but our play opens up in Europe on Wednesday, August the 2nd. And it's official and not surprising, the takeover of Kasımpaşa AS has fallen apart. Since we have ticked over to the new league year, we can take our very first look at the media predictions for the coming season. Even though we finished in second place last year in a Champions League spot, media is currently picking us to finish 6th place. An overwhelming favorite at the top is Fenerbahce, who, I remind you, still has no manager. Last year's champions, Trabzonspor, are in second place. Predicted to come in third is Galatasaray. They fell apart last year, ended up mid-table. And Besiktas? Besiktas, really? Now, we do finally have a player in the media Dream 11. That is James Furlong, of course. Guess we're going to have to try to find the money to keep him around, eh? Some good news on the James Furlong front. He's no longer concerned about signing a new deal, so he's no longer unhappy with us. The only problem is it's because of the interest being shown in him from elsewhere. Yeah, there are a lot of clubs that want him. This could be a problem. Especially if we only get $3.9 million for him, because I think he's worth a little bit more than that. You know the transfer window's open when your star left back gets a number of offers, including one that the club has already accepted from AEK in the Super League. They met the 3.9 million euro release clause. We're going to make a last-ditch effort to try to sign James Furlong. We're probably going to have to offer him what he wants for now, which means we're going to have to sacrifice some of our current transfer budget, which means we're going to have to sell some players in order to bring somebody in to bolster our squad, because, yeah, we got Champions League football coming up in like 5 weeks. And because we walked out on the transfer talks before, he's not interested in talking to us. So we're about to lose James Furlong for 3.9 million euros, assuming he comes to a deal with his new club, but pretty sure that's going to happen, whoever that may be. Can we work out maybe a better deal and try to get some more money from another team that maybe wants him? Well, we can sure try. And since Furlong is probably leaving us now, I did something that I never do. I actually answered the question, which position do you think needs strengthening in this transfer window? To which I responded, left back. Another interview chance has popped up, although not really one that we were, I guess, expecting or really looking forward to. I have to admit I have mixed feelings about this. Fenerbahce have approached us to interview for their open position. Now, the reservation is it would be essentially a lateral move in the fact that we would be remaining in the Turkish First Division. However, it would be a step up in reputation, and Fenerbahce is predicted to be favorites to win the league. They've got more money, they've got a better reputation, they have more experience. The board have been impressed with our performance, of course, at Kasımpaşa. We've been impressed ourselves, which is why we're one of their top candidates. They're confident in our ability to perform. However, they do have concerns that we haven't, won anything yet. We have a complete lack of experience in winning titles. We are going to attend the interview. We'll see what happens. Not sure I want to go to Fenerbahce. Gonna be completely honest. I might, if we are offered the job, we may end the episode there, and I may leave it up to you in the comments and in our Twitch chat to see where we go next, if that is the case. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Interview's done. Now, I still have my reservations, but they did ask us if we would be okay with a 52 million euro transfer budget and a wage budget 10 times our current wage bill. On the downside, they expect us to not only win the Super League, but just keep doing it over and over and over again. Also on the negative side, Fenerbahce have technically had 3 managers in the last 6 months. We've enjoyed quite a bit of job security wherever we have been. That has to be a consideration when choosing our potential next move. James Furlong's agent still wouldn't talk to us about renewing a contract, but he would talk to us about the market interest for his player. So we said, we're curious, what's he worth? They said, I think we can get offers at the 4.8 million euro range. So I'm like, yeah, sure, bring him. We got 4, which have all been accepted by the club because, well, frankly, it exceeds his minimum fee release clause. So maybe he's not going to sign with the Grecian squad in AEK, and maybe he'll go to the Saudi Pro League. If he's not going to stay, we might as well get as much as we possibly can for him, right? Hopefully this saga with James Furlong doesn't last too long, however, because I am a little loath to sign a new left back until we know our current left back is actually going to be going somewhere. So if he could make a decision pretty quickly, that would be pretty sweet. Meanwhile, we are trying to raise a little bit more money just in case. We have thrown a couple of names out there into the wind to see what may happen. Mateus Enrique, Issa Yilmaz, and Eren Öztürk. No interest has come back just yet. We will keep trying. I hope something can happen, because if we can't send anybody out, we can't bring anybody in. And that could make our journey in the Champions League a very short trip. And yes, we are still awaiting resolution of the James Furlong saga. There are 5 offers on the table that he is attempting to negotiate. He might consider renewing his contract with us because he does hold us in high esteem. However, we can't get into negotiations with him. We are starting to see some positive movement on the financial front. We've sold 826 season tickets so far, which is about 200 more than we have in the past. The board expect to sell another 100 or so positive steps. We did manage to get an offer through an intermediary for Mateus Enrique for $800,000. We tried to negotiate it up to an even million, which is what we've been offering him out for. And that ended up getting rejected, so we try again. We have, however, reached a conclusion in the James Furlong saga. He's headed to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, joining Al Rayed for a 4.8 million euro fee. We paid 800 grand to Hearts for him back in 2026. So 4 million in profit, not too shabby. The move adds about 3.2 million euros to the kitty, so now we can finally go shopping for a new left back. That being said, we may not need to, because Adem Dojan could fill that spot. And we have Benedict Joseph to play center back. Maybe we pick up a third string CB, keep our eyes focused on the right back situation, get rid of Mateus Enrique, almost forgetting that we really do want to sell Moritz Nicholas. We have possibilities, but we are running out of time before our preseason begins, and we are 4 weeks away from Champions League football. We have solicited some suggestions from our director of football, just in case we did want to pick up a left back. Ismail Bora is a possibility, a 27-year-old French national, has not capped for either the youth or the senior national team, so that gives me a little bit of pause. Also, the 29-year-old Englishman Josh Tyman, same situation, as well as a 29-year-old Frenchman, Theo Sanlus. The problem with all 3 is they're going to cost us all more than Adem Dojan makes right now, and they're all foreign. We may have to continue our search. We're also still searching for a suitor to take Mateus Enrique off of our hands, and now he may be forcing the issue because guess who didn't show up for training today? So while we continue to try to find someone to take Enrique off of our hands, we did find a suitor for Moritz Nicholas. 1.1 million euros from Almeria in Spain. Could we try to negotiate it up? Sure we could. Are we going to? Nope, because we don't want to mess this one up either. We're taking it. Another 1.1 million should add another 700 grand or so to our transfer budget, which now puts us over 5 million. We do have a bit of money to spend. We haven't spent any of it yet. We're still waiting for the right options in the right positions. We are still looking to move on from Issa Yilmaz. We think that we're going to be able to get a decent amount of value for him as a young central defender who kind of doesn't really fit in our plans, but might. He's getting a lot of interest from Bodø Glimt in the Eliteserien in Norway. Unfortunately, they aren't willing to make an offer until their transfer window is open, and it does not open until August 1st. Can we be patient? We'll see. Well, Şenol Khan has left Antalyaspor to take charge at Fenerbahçe. We didn't get the job. Honestly, kinda not sad. Well, this episode has probably gone on longer than I initially anticipated. We haven't signed anybody yet. As you know, we made those 2 sales with James Furlong and Mortz Nicholas departing the club. Could Enrique be next? I kind of hope so. I do promise that there will be signings. We do have irons in the fire. We are within 4 weeks of our inaugural Champions League play. So we're going to bring you whatever moves we're able to make before that, and the start of our European journey for the new season coming up on Monday's episode. As always, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate all the likes, the subscriptions, all of the help that you're able to give in order to help grow this channel. Thank you all very much. I will see you on Monday. Until then, bye-bye.